Good day, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earthwatch. Today, Sunday, December 18th, year 2022 on our planet. Before I get into our discussion today, first, how many of you watched Mr. Davidson's first live Q&A on suspicious observers today? Very interesting. I think perhaps he's been watching Diamond. You should call Diamond and get some pointers. Maybe. Suggestion. Just like Diamond watches me. Diamond promotes me by using my Facebook cover page. Thanks, Diamond. Really appreciate it. All right, keep it up. All right. Maybe next time put my name on there. All right, buddy? Thanks. Sarcasm. Anyway. Remember these good gentlemen? Dan of I Allegedly and Chris of Financial Prepper, and of course the Economic Ninja. What do you think the odds are in a Twilight Zone parallel universe, whatever? That this could be Mr. Davidson and this could be David Murillo, Diamond, and of course Gene of the Math Store Observatory. Wouldn't that be great? Sarcasm there a little bit. Anyway, here I am. Give me a... Sorry, Ben had this kind of awkwardness today too, so to be excused. I gotta blank out my screen here. Too much light. Just, let me get myself organized here. Some notes. Anyway, let's just wing it. Okay. How do you like that introduction? Anyway. So folks, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I ask you. What comes first? The magnetic excursion acceleration point or the grand solar minimum? As stated when I started my study, I started off with the grand solar minimum. But that developed into the magnetic excursion and its effects on planet Earth and the inhabitants. But I ask you, what's just going to come first and affect us? There's a lot of information out there. There's also a lot of criticisms out there. Each thinking he knows best and better than the other guy. Who cares? You know what? As I said, we need to pay attention to what's happened to our planet. Our planet's going to tell you. And he's going to tell you too. Don't forget that. A lot of criticisms back and forth. The effects of the magnetic excursion have already started. In fact, it started in 1859 with the Carrington event when they'd given a good swift kick in the butt and said, get going. And it's already crossed over the center of the Earth and headed into Siberia. And that will have impacts on society and our technology. But the grand solar minimum is going to have an impact. It may have an impact before then on our ability to grow food for 8 billion people right now. So the question is the timing, which is going to affect us first. The grand solar minimum is more consistent in its timing pattern. It's 100-year cycle, it's 260-year cycle, it's 400-year grand solar minimum cycle when it decides to go into a period of hibernation. Then the 12,000 year or the 12,068 or 12,500 year cycle of the magnetic excursion. Again, we've started, but we don't know when the acceleration point is going to be. Next year, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25. Some speak of late 2030s to 2040s. Douglas Voigt, 2046, based on his study of Hebrew scripture. Two things are evident right now, however. The effects of our weakening magnetosphere on such things as our changing jet streams that bring in our weather patterns. And speaking of our weather patterns, shifting because of the oncoming grand solar minimum. I'm in Western Canada, and our winter started in the beginning of November. I had expected to continue into at least the end of March. To veer off subject just a little bit, it's having a psychological effect in that we have not had any sun. In the past 2 months, I think we had 2 days of sun. That's it. And it's having a deep psychological effect on a lot of people. Anyway. As I said, in my opinion, the effects of the magnetic excursion and the weakening magnetosphere is already manifesting in the breakdown of our jet streams and the heat indications I see coming up. So let's not be so far off focused on late 2030s, 2040s. And let's start preparing now. As far as the magnetic excursion goes, it may progress into a complete pole reversal. However, what would be worse would be we could have multiple magnetic poles, multiple norths and multiple souths. We could have a magnetic, if the excursion continues at its regular pace and decides to stabilize in Siberia at 90 degrees, we can have a magnetic north in Siberia, one in Canada. We can have two magnetic souths, the current South Atlantic anomaly over the west side of South America, and one in the Indian Ocean off of Sumatra. This would result in disorganized, chaotic magnetic field lines, again, leaving us with no protection. So the grand solar minimum is really expected to amplify, to pick up at the end of the current solar cycle 25, 2028 to 2030. Now keep in mind, the average length of a solar cycle is 11 years. A few, have been 13.5 years. One or two have been 9-year solar cycle. We can have a gradual descent to 2030. We can also have a sharp drop-off, 2028. Let's also keep in mind that catastrophic earthquakes and volcanic eruptions happen during grand solar minimum periods, and I've gone through the history before. I'm not going to repeat it again. Look at the playlist. Let's repeat it briefly. Cascadia subduction zone, megathrust earthquake, magnitude 9 plus, January 26, 1700, during the Maunder minimum. Tambora eruption, April 10th into the 15th, 1815, which resulted in the following year without summer. At that time, there was only 1 billion people on the planet. Northern hemisphere was covered in volcanic ash. Year without a summer. Massive devastation on our crops. Famine. Many people died. So we could have an event start up at the end of the current solar cycle. I got this non-scientific gut feeling that in 2 to 3 years, when we reach solar maximum, we're going to have an event, probably a major volcanic eruption. Could be more than one, however. And again, I'll go back to scripture. Acts 2, verse 19, last sentence. Do your homework. It's not there on the playlist. Just do your homework. So when we listen to other YouTubers about what's going to happen and when, don't be complacent and think that we have 20 to 25 years left to prepare. That would be foolish. So far, every single person out there is leaving out one very important text, the one he wrote. Remember, others may present their geological evidence to say one way or the other, or have a mathematical computation to figure out when things might happen. We already have a list, beginning of sorrows and earth changes, if you're awake. So, it's my opinion, it's my observations. Folks, I know you guys are watching me, all right? Behave. That's all until tonight, folks. Have a good Sunday.